Hi everyone, welcome back. I could produce these videos speaking to you as a coach, saying you need to do this, you need to do that, try this, try that. But with this video, I decided to kind of approach it retrospectively, what it was that worked for me to make trading my full-time income. So to get started, what was it that made me choose trading? What was it that made me decide to go off on this new path and learn about something so new and what eventually turned out to be quite a difficult challenge for me to actually manage? I found myself in a position where I wanted to find a way of making an income that would be location free, that would give me the option to be anywhere in the world that I wanted to be and to be able to still make an income. And how that came about was we were on holiday here in Thailand, my wife and myself, lying by the pool here in Udon Thani, where my wife's family come from. And I was looking at my iPad. Something came up about Forex trading. And I looked at it, and it was a broker. I installed the app. I set up an account, played with it for a while, made money. And I thought, well, this is it. If I go live with this, that was a demo account. If I go live with this, I can do the same thing. And I can be here by the pool making money. No need to go back to England. Of course, that was far, far from the actual truth and the reality of the situation in becoming a successful trader. So when I got back to the UK, immediately I started researching, looking into it, looking at YouTube videos and everything else, like most of us do, listening to many, many people who were talking on the subject. Believe me, there's plenty of them. Now, the thing is with me, if I decide I'm going to do something, I go full on. I absolutely focus 100% on it. And I kind of like disappear into my cave, into my shell. People around me, they often pick up on the fact that I'm up to something. I must have a new project because I've disappeared from the scene. No one hears from me. Then I started to get people getting in touch with me, coming around to see me, saying, what you're up to? You must be doing something. And it was strange for me to look them in the eye and say to them, I'm a Forex trader, or I'm going to be a Forex trader. It kind of like, for me, it was a little bit embarrassing. It was kind of like, that's not you. You've never been involved in that kind of thing. Don't get me wrong. I've always been optimistic. I've always been enthusiastic. I didn't have a problem with that self-confidence. At 17, I was only 17 years old when I opened my first company. And I've always been self-employed ever since. I've always owned my own companies and never had a boss. But the thing is, with trading, those businesses, it was always on my terms or my past knowledge or my past experience or something that I was already a little knowledgeable about. And so moving into those different things, it was, I won't say easy, but it was more of a smooth transition to suddenly pull up the brakes and say, right, I'm changing course completely. I'm going to be a Forex trader. It was kind of mind-blowing. And I realised after, it was only much, much later, that I saw the term imposter syndrome. And it was then I realised it was that I was suffering from. I felt like an imposter. Me, a Forex trader, I wasn't. But think about it this way, okay? You sit down at your charts. You haven't got a clue what you're doing. You open up the charts, you put some money in, you start trading. From that minute, you're a Forex trader. Doesn't mean to say you're a successful Forex trader. It guarantees you'll blow your money. But the fact is, you are a Forex trader. And it was kind of like that made me, get rid of that imposter syndrome, kind of accept myself and my explanation or my description as being a Forex trader. One of the things that kind of helped me with that, as I was going down this path of learning many, many different directions, let me tell you this, I used to be a London taxi driver. Central London in the old type London taxis, a licensed taxi driver. And back in the early days, I was running around town and you'd see these guys in the city with the brightly coloured jackets. And it was those jackets that made them stand out in the pit, showing who they were working for when they were placing trades. And I used to see these guys, wide boys, Jack the lads, if you like, running around the city, so full of confidence, That was the world of trading for me. And, it was kind of like I was encroaching on their territory. Again, that was the kind of thing that made it a little bit difficult for me to fall into it. But as I was studying it, as I was looking at more online, something suddenly struck me. Initially, I was thinking about trading and the money markets as the big boys, the big people in the financial institutes. after a while, I suddenly realised those Jack the Lad boys who were running around the city with the coloured jackets on, they weren't big players. They were coming from council estates in East London. Not all of them, but a lot of them were. And they worked their way into that world, into that way of living. And it was then that I started looking at that, different types of traders, looking at their backgrounds. And I suddenly realised that trading, it's this amazing level playing field, if you like. I don't know anything else that's like it. The fact that you can be from any background, rich or poor, any ethnicity, you can come from any religion, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at all, because it's not like, you know, the old days where you had to get into a company to trade. Now you can be sitting in a darkened room in your house and you're a trader, you're working on it. So there is no need to feel like an outsider. Anyone can become a part of this. Anyone can become successful at it. And it was that sense of equality that drew me even stronger towards it. So the second point for me was I jumped straight in, believing that I could do this on my own. I could just start from scratch and with my own determination, get through this and make it work. But obviously it wasn't the case. I didn't know what I was doing, which direction I was heading in. I ended up spending a load of money that I needn't have spent. But who knows? I'm sure that many of you are in the same place, in the same position where you've done the same. First of all, coming into this, it's a brand new thing to me. Didn't have a clue. And I hadn't spoken to anyone about it. That was my way of doing business initially. If I decided I was going to do something, I was very much a loner, and I would just get on and I'd find a way to do things. I'd obviously bring people in along the route, but getting into this trading, I knew no one who was involved in it. And I just knuckled down and decided I was going to do it on my own. So I was spending money here, there and everywhere. Anyone who was producing the next shiny objects, I was jumping on board and dishing out some cash for them. The main point of the third stage was the risk management and the mindset. And it was then that I realised maybe this is where I should be focusing. Maybe it's down that route that I should be heading first, or maybe not first, working with the charts, working with strategies maybe, but also making it a priority to try and understand that mindset and to try and focus on the risk management. I started reading as much as I could. First book that I actually bought and read was Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. And I'd recommend that to anyone. It was such a massive boost for me. It helped me out so much. It really did, in understanding that side of being a Forex trader. Once I started reading and absorbing all of this information, it was then that I calmed down a bit. I decided that I was going to focus on one method, one strategy, and really give it my all, see how I got on with that. And the other thing is that from that moment on, I worked on the psychological element as if there was nothing else, as if that was the most important thing. It's almost like looking at the charts, the actual trading side of things, it was a byproduct. The most important thing to me there and then was the psychological element. And it's that I honed in on. The fourth point was accepting that I needed help. Up to that point, I thought I could do it on my own, but I realised I couldn't. I needed some kind of help. And so I found a method, a strategy that worked for me, that kind of made sense to me right from the off. Although I didn't understand it all, I had to work very hard on it to understand it. I paid for an education and started working on this one method. And I was completely ignoring everything else around me. You know what it's like. Once you sign up to something on YouTube or on Facebook, you're bombarded with things from all over the place. But I kind of ignored all of that, and I had this tunnel vision just focusing on the one thing that I was studying. Something that was very important to me was that method fitted in with my lifestyle. Being a London taxi driver, I could work my hours around this method that I was working with. However, you're watching this video, you're aware of Desire to Trade. Have a look at the many different strategies and methods that they've got, and I'm sure that you'll find one that fits in with your life, with your work patterns, with your family life. I'm sure you'll find something that suits you. Point number 5. I had to subdue this feeling of desperation that I had. You imagine, I'm there in London, I'm driving a taxi, I'm not happy with what I'm doing, and I did become desperate. It was almost like, I've got to make this work, and I've got to make it work as quickly as possible. I could see the opportunities and the potential that was there, and I was pushing and pushing and pushing, but it's the worst thing you can do. It can really throw you off the tracks. It really can send you off down a negative path. And so that desperation, you need to try and bring that under control. Again, the mindset thing comes into play. Somewhere along the line, I realised I wasn't going to get rich quick doing this. I paid for an education. I was working really hard on that, focused on it. And it's then that you start to take on board everything that surrounds a successful method, and it suddenly smacks you in the face. This isn't a get rich quick scheme. Nowhere near it. You have to be steady, you have to be consistent and build slowly. A big part of that was that I had to become more accepting and understand that I needed to learn to lose before I could win. Now that might seem strange to many people, but every single trader will lose. It doesn't matter how long you're doing this for, you'll have losing trades. And when you start out, that kind of tears at your heart. It really does. You come away from the chart some days where you're on a drawdown, and in the beginning, before you've understood what the psychological part is about and the risk management part's about, you feel like you've been beaten up. You really do feel worn down, but that's all part of it. And you'll get to a point, hopefully, if you're going to succeed, where you'll accept that. So accepting the losses before you can become a winner, so important. So on to the 6th point. I realised that for me, to get through a drawdown, I'd need to reduce my lot size. Anytime I went into a drawdown, or if I had just one day losing trades, wasn't doing very well, I'd reduce my lot size. So you see, what was happening for me is that I was trading. Winning days, great. Win, lose, okay, that was all right. But if I had a day where every position that I took was losing, or if I came towards the end of the week and I was in a negative position, that became really quite difficult for me to accept and deal with. The way I got round it was I reduced my lot size. Now, this is like a double whammy because, okay, you reduce your lot size, saves you making so many mistakes, because when you take a loss, obviously the monetary value is going to be lower. You've reduced. I'll tell you what it was. I was trading with 0.5%, meaning that any position that I took, if I got stopped out, I'd lose 0.5% of my capital. At times of drawdown, I'd cut that back to 0.25%. So straight away, you take a loss and you see a much smaller amount coming out of your account. You're losing less money. At the same time, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, yeah, okay, but I'm only putting on this 0.25% lot size now. So to get back those losses, it's going to take me longer. So be it. This isn't a sprint. It really is a marathon. You really got to take your time in building, because if you try and sprint out of a drawdown and you have a few losses, that's going to throw you. You're going to start over leveraging, over trading, taking too many positions as well, and you'll end up blowing your account. Oh, by the way, I think I blew up 2 or 3 accounts. I think I blew up in all of this time that I was trying to get it right. So it happens. But listen, if you can take on board everything you get from a good coach and you can work with it without deviating, not many of you that will be able to do it. I know there's not. You'll be able to get through this without blowing up an account. Just bear that in mind. Stick with the rules. Focus on what you're doing. It's so important. So going back to the reducing the lot size, I became absolutely obsessed with journaling. I was writing down everything that I was doing, every single position that I took, whether it was long or short, whether it was a win or a loss, how many pips I won, how many pips I lost. So the other thing with this is that in the moment when you're actually trading, you're so focused, you're so full on. At the end of the day, you'll come away from the charts, you'll finish trading. Whether you've won or lost, you won't know what led to that, how you were feeling. And so there'd always be a space on my journal to scribble down how I'm feeling. Oh, that really wound me up. That's drilling me. That's doing my head in. Or feeling really good now, beginning to feel euphoric. That can be dangerous as well, by the way. So I was actually self-analysing and I was looking at what was happening. So looking at losing trade, losing next to it and seeing what psychological effect that was actually having on me, just speaking to myself by writing it down. That in itself was a massive, massive help to me. It really was. It made a massive difference. So that journaling is something that I really stepped up on and being more in depth with it, if you like. So sitting here going through this, it was kind of, it was a strange thing because I've gone through all of that and I've never really stopped and explained what those key points were for me. I've just gone through it. I've done what I've done. I've never really looked back and analysed what it was. So sitting here and doing this and the things that are coming to mind, okay, then there was that and then there was that. It's been quite good. I've really enjoyed doing it. But there's one other thing that I did to, let's say, speed up the process. Listen, I know that most of you guys are not going to be able to do this. You've got houses, you've got mortgages, you've got family, you've got lives, you've got jobs, careers that you wouldn't even dream of leaving. But for me, I was in a position where I could actually change my lifestyle to put me in a much better position to become a full-time trader, to make sure that trading became my full-time income. And that was this dream I had to come and live in Thailand. Myself and my wife, we wanted to come here and live in Thailand full-time. So we got to a point where we could afford to buy a bit of land, build our house. We did that. And that was it. We gave up England, and coming to live here in Thailand was the final part of the puzzle for me. Now, I won't say without that part of the puzzle, you're not going to do it, because you will, but it will take you a little bit longer. If you're deciding you're going to continue living in the West, America, UK, Europe, whatever it is, you're going to need to be making more money, okay? So it's going to take you a little bit longer building. You can't rush it. You can't suddenly whack a load of money into an account and start to see bigger income from what you're doing. It doesn't work. In most cases, it'll throw you off kilter and you'll go back to losing again. But for me, being in a position where I was consistently winning, seeing reasonably consistent results percentage-wise, I thought, okay, I'm doing this now. So if I stopped earning in the UK, come to live full-time in Thailand, the reduced cost of living suddenly meant I could be here, I could focus more on my trading. And it doesn't mean trading for longer or taking more positions. I could focus more on it and honing that mindset side of things, learning more about risk management. But just being in this environment for me, it was a turnaround point. So that was the final part of this puzzle for me, living here, and it gave me the opportunity to make a full-time living from trading. But don't get me wrong, if I was still living in England, if there was situations or my lifestyle meant I had to stay in England, trading would have still become my full-time income. That's where my main income would have come from, my full-time income. And I would have done it. It just means it would have taken me longer to get to that position. I'd have been going out at 5 o'clock in the morning. This time of year, I'll be scraping the ice off the windows, going into central London, dealing with the road rage and everything else that goes with it, and getting home in time to do the trading that I needed to do. I know that I would have done it. Without a doubt, I would have done it. I would have kept going until I did it. But being able to come here, it reduced my cost of living and gave me the opportunity to get where I wanted to be much quicker. So let's summarise and bullet point these key points that got me to where I am as a trader. Number 1, getting over imposter syndrome. Number 2, stop approaching this blindly. Become more professional. Number 3 was understanding that risk management and mindset were more important than the method. Number 4 was accepting that I needed help and then finding the right person to give me that help and guidance. Number 5, removing the desperation element and understanding that I needed to learn to lose before I could learn to win. Number 6, understanding risk management and focusing on journaling, as this went a long way in building the mindset muscle. Thanks very much for watching. Please remember to hit subscribe and you'll get updates as and when these videos are produced.